Let's get rid of this junk. Hello. Hello. It is, let me get this mic straight. Sorry if it's banging in your ears there. It is Thursday. That means it is time to have some fun. We have some resumes to roast, to look at, hopefully provide some good advice. We have to figure out what do we want to do today. Yeah, so that'll be something fun. Feel free, if you're in chat, if you're new, say hello in chat. If you're brand new to the stream, if you haven't done the like, share, subscribe thing and you got some value, feel free to do it. Let other folks know we're here to help them get into cybersecurity. Specifically, I work in the SOC space, but I do have a pen testing background and purple teaming background, so I can answer a lot of the questions that are, well, I think that's the fun area. I don't think engineering is that fun, but I can help answer some of those fun questions that you have. So feel free to drop them all stream long. We'll be here for 2 hours. So feel free to enjoy. If we start doing labs, or when we start doing labs, that is, follow along. If you run into any issues, make sure you're dropping them in chat. We'll see if we can't get you straight, get you right on track. But I definitely encourage folks, when we're doing stuff on this live stream, follow along best that you can, because just watching isn't doing yourself a lot of good. You're going to learn a lot more getting your hands dirty. That's what the managers, hiring managers, want to see out there. So make sure you're getting that hands-on experience, playing around with stuff. Stuff never works right the first time anyways. So there you go. Let's see, what's new with me? What is new with me? I got a new pair of running shoes today. That's cool. So I'm training for, if you're new, I'm a runner. Well, as of last year, I'm a runner, and I'm training for an ultra marathon. And I got these shoes at Christmas time that were like, you just step into them so you don't have to tie them. They're horrible. They've been killing my feet. So I got a new pair of regular shoes like the ones I got before. And it made me realize why so many runners stick to the same shoe, is so they don't have feet issues. So it's been killing me. Any of my long runs, when I start getting over 2 hours, they start just killing my feet. I get blisters like crazy from them. So pretty excited about that. That's been fun. Been doing a lot of interviews for my workplace this week. So some good stuff. I will tell you a good lessons learned for folks. So learn from other people's mistakes, and I'm glad to be able to share those with you. I had a gentleman I was interviewing, and he left mid-interview. It was for a higher level role, and he just left, dipped out, didn't say anything. And I was like, oh, was it a technical issue? Can I help you out there? And he's like, well, I don't think I'm a fit for this role, but thank you for your time. I don't want to waste your time. I will tell you, if you feel like that in an interview, I stress you, don't dip out. If anything, like this gentleman, if he wasn't a good fit for the tier 3, we had other roles open. I could have offered those if he was a better fit for those. We do that. And a lot of other places do that as well. They'll offer you a lower role or a different role if they think you're a good fit, especially if you have like a good, if you're a good behavioral fit for other roles, like they think you'd be a great fit for that team. A lot of places will do that, will recommend you. So do yourself a favor and don't burn bridges whenever you interview. If they like you, they're probably going to find a spot for you, or keep an eye out for a better spot for you if you kind of, if you do a good job, right? It's all about personality, fitting in, and that drive, just seeing that type of thing, like, oh, this person is a go-getter. I don't think they're ready yet, but and I've seen some of my folks do this in the past, where they're like, hey, hit me up and I'll help coach you along in what you need to study to get you ready for this role. Shout out KP, they did that to you, buddy. I'm glad they did, because we got to keep you. But don't hurt yourself. People are willing to work with you. Not always, but sometimes. And so you want to give yourself every opportunity possible. So there's the lessons learned from this week's interview world. As a hiring manager, help yourself out. Okay, so we'll save the resumes for the last 15-20 minutes. We'll save the resumes to the end. So if you're here for the resumes, we'll do them at the back side of it. Today, we're going to get our hands dirty. We've been doing lab stuff, home lab stuff, for the last, I think, 3 sessions, 3 live streams. So let's actually get in the TryHackme chat folks watching us. So we got quite a few people here on YouTube, in Twitch. What do you want to learn today? What are you here for? Let me know in the chat and we'll see if we can make those wishes come true. Also, while you're there, what do you think about the new logo? I don't have it up on this one, but on YouTube, I have started putting out the new logo, trying to be a little more professional-ish. But we'll see. We'll see. It took a lot of time. Hopefully, it's nice. While you're answering in chat about what you want to see tonight, I am going to get my screen shared so we can start looking around. So, TryHackme. If you don't have TryHackme or Hack the Box or any other online lab, you need to get there, especially if you're looking to get into the SOC. I will tell you, so many interviews over the last 4 months, we have people with just those theoretical certifications and they do horrible in the technical interviews. Help yourself out. Get into the labs like this and start learning. It is going to do nothing but help you get ready for the job and help you pass the interview. So if you're not doing it, you need to make sure you're getting in here. So we'll start while people are chatting and hopefully putting some stuff in the chat. I'll show you a couple of places that you should be checking out. And if there are any other labs that you think we should be sharing with the community, let me know. We can dive into them on here as well. I am most familiar with those two, Hack the Box and TryHackme. So I can only show what I know about, but happy to look at the stuff on here and share it with other folks. So the reason why I love both of these platforms is that they have pathways specifically for the roles you're looking for. So in this case, they have SOC level 1 and level 2. So you can get in here and learn the stuff that you're actually going to be doing on the job. And this is going to save your hiring manager a ton of time, but it's also going to help you get better. And even when you're a SOC analyst, going in here and diving deeper is going to help you climb the ranks of analysts and even move laterally into other roles a lot easier. So make sure you're getting in here, learning some stuff. It's going to make you more marketable, which is what I want to see. Hey, Cam, welcome. Welcome back. I wouldn't let you in chat over on Twitch. What a bummer. I hate that for us. Technical problems, right? We're technical people. We face technical problems. Well, thank you for sticking with it and switching over to this. I'm going to check Twitch to make sure it's actually streaming over there, see if there's any issues. Looks like it's over there. Okay. Don't know what's going on. But, yeah, glad you made the switch. What can we help you learn today, Mr. Holy Wrencher, Cam? Yeah, so on that spiel, yeah, get in here. You should be learning every day. Just because you get the job doesn't mean you're where you need to be. Unlike a lot of careers out there where once you get a degree, you're ready to go. Cybersecurity is an ever evolving field. And it's one of the best things and worst things about it is that we can never catch up and never learn everything, which is bad if you want kind of like a cruising role. But if you want something that's cool that you're never going to get bored with, this is definitely the way to do it. So definitely get in there and check it out. Splunk, we got a Splunk person today, definitely. So yeah, Cam may get his way if no one else says anything, but we could probably fit in a couple of labs today, so definitely bring them in here. There are quite a few in TryHackme, a couple of Splunk ones. Let's see, we can see if I can find one we haven't done. If not, we can dive into one I have done and talk through it and hopefully get you some information, Cam. If you have TryHackme, I definitely encourage you to hop in it so that you can ask questions, follow along, and get some good stuff out of the live stream today. Everyone else in chat, feel free to comment. This is open community. I'm here to help you. So you got to tell me what you need. We're trying to get everyone a job and help them cruise on up that career ladder in cybersecurity so you can have some fun, meet some cool people, learn some cool stuff. And yeah, hey, Haram, nice to see you again. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right, let's go see if we can find a Splunk room for Cam. And let's dive into something. Oh, they have tabletop exercises. They've changed a few things in here. All right. If I can type today, let's see what we got. We have a few. We did Conti before. First shift CTF. So that's a new one. That's a medium. That might be fun. We got quite a few here. Is there any specific one, Cam, that you've been struggling with or that you would like me to dive into? Happy to do that. It looks like there's quite a few medium ones here. We can do an easy one if you want, or we can do a really hard one. Let's see, he says, I've done most of the Splunk rooms. For me, it's just trying to tie everything together for actual analysis. Okay, cool. We can just hop in one of them. I can walk you through looking at the logs and see if we can do some of that tying together for you. Looks like Sasquatch uses CrowdStrike at work daily, looking to get better with it. You know, the great thing about CrowdStrike, especially if you're using that advanced search feature, is you can use a lot of the similar capabilities to Splunk. So you can do all that tabling, you can do the field searching. You have a lot of very, very similar capabilities. So even though I don't think TryHackme has CrowdStrike, Splunk is pretty close. And the great thing is that most of the tools are really similar. That's why I tell people, don't jump all over from Elastic to Splunk to all of these just continuously. Get on one, just kind of like Cam did, and dive in and just do all the content for it and see if you can't get really good with it. Because a lot of times it will translate across the board. Same with like languages. It was a real struggle for me early on in Java to learn how to program. Like I gave up on programming, I actually dropped out of school. And then eventually I came back, and now I'm learning, like I can probably swap C++, C, C Sharp, Go, PowerShell, you name it, I can dive into it. They're all very similar. I understand the concepts, and it's easy. And you can do the same thing with pretty much any of the tooling here. As long as you understand the fundamentals, so like the log piece, what are we looking in the logs for? How did the attacks kind of work together? You're golden. It's just Googling and say, how do I do this in this tool? So super, super easy. Looks like, there we go. Throw that up there. Looks like Cam stumbled through Conti, but he knows it wasn't efficient. That's cool, man. You got to the right answers. That's all that matters. Let's throw Conti up here. We've done this one, and I will tell you there are some breaks in the Conti one, so it doesn't make logical sense in some places. And so that may have been what caused you to stumble, is that it just didn't make sense contextually. It happens in these labs. That's why whenever I do them at work, I try to do like a full attack chain when I was doing purple teaming stuff, because I wanted people to start building those thought patterns that help you become a good analyst. If I'm looking for this type of attack, I should be able to look here. It should look like this, because we want to train those instincts. Sometimes some of that is missing in these labs, but that's okay. That is okay. So tell me a little bit more, Cam, about what you're trying to gather. Is it you're trying to understand the attacks and how to look for them? Tell me a little bit more, and we'll see if we can't talk to that a little bit better for you. While you're doing that, I am going to start this machine. I am also going to see if I can't get on the VPN here. Let's see, open VPN. It should be. Bad practices. Don't hurt me. Let's see. Where is it? I think it's desktop. Desktop. LS, where we at? It is not there. Where is it? Maybe it's in root. Let's see. LS, root. Nope, not there. Let's see. LS star. Let's see if we can find my VPN stuff. Oh, here it is. Where's it at? It's in downloads. How about that? All right, we're getting there. Open VPN. Oh, if I can spell, open VPN. What was it? US East. There we go. We'll see if it'll connect for us, and then we'll be off to the races here. Yeah, I was working the day. I was working on piecing together some like quasi logs that I could shoot out in a message and say, hey, see if you can analyze this based on these logs and tell the story, which is one of the things you need to be able to do as an analyst, right? Look at these raw logs and tell the story. What's actually occurring in here? And so I'm working through that. Hopefully, I'll be able to get it done and I can drop some weekly challenges somewhere. Oh, I forgot. We have a community. So we may be switching gears out of Discord soon. We'll see. And yeah, we'll see. And just everything will be focused in a single community. So we can get all the, I can actually have a good schedule and manage everything a lot more efficiently. Filtering. That is the tough part, Cam. So he says, I think for me, it's just partially understanding how to filter effectively and also knowing what right looks like when using a SIM. Lack of exposure. Fair, fair. But we can work through that. Not a problem. So let me grab the Splunk URL here. Throw it up in the browser. Has anyone seen, and this is funny and telling, like random stuff about different Super Bowls keep popping up in my like feed, and one of the most amazing videos is watching Rihanna's sign language person from her Super Bowl. It's very amazing. Check it out. She's like so into it when she's doing the sign language. It's amazing. Highly recommend. Has anyone seen that in chat? So great. All right. So, for those of you who don't know, who were here, definitely say hi if you're new. I had a couple of people already say hi. This is Splunk. This is one of the SIMs that you are very likely to see inside of an enterprise environment. I wish I had a show of what the market is for these different SIMs, but this is one of them. We have, let's see what else. CrowdStrike also has a SIM as well built into it, the advanced search feature. We have Graylog, we have QRadar. There's a bunch of them, but they almost all work the same. Where we're just searching. It's almost like a search engine for logs. And if we know how, like what questions to ask, we can understand the picture of what's going on, and it makes our lives a lot easier. So the logs are pretty much the foundation of what we do as SOC analysts. And as we get higher up and specialize more, we'll get into other artifacts. But as a normal SOC analyst, we're in logs all day long, and you have to get to the point where you can read them like a book. And at first, I will tell you it's scary. It is, you look at him like, oh my gosh, people are expecting me to read this mess. And let's just look at something real quick. Let me just pull up some logs and I will show you how horrible it is. If you're new and you haven't done this, you're going to be like, I don't know if I want to do this job. This is terrible. This is it. This is what we're looking at, these logs. Now, what's great and what Cam is talking about, hey, I need to figure out how to search more efficiently, more effectively. And what you're trying to do is, how do I look into this and pull out the information I need to quickly? Because in the real environment, you're going to have millions and millions of logs, right? Instead of, this probably has a few thousand, 28,000. So this is pretty small. Believe it or not, this is a very tiny subset of logs. Again, organizations, we're talking about terabytes a day of logs coming in. It's just massive amount of logs. And so the key is getting really, really good with searching and curating that data that we have to be able to answer the questions we have and build a narrative. Okay. So let's look at this. So in here, there are a bunch of different event codes. And the event codes are designate the type of event we want to look at, or the type of event that's occurring, actually, rather. And then we say, okay, if I want to prove this thing, I need to look for this type of event. So sticking with me so far, so pretty straightforward. Sasquatch is seeing the video I was talking about. It's so good, so good. And once we ask those questions, right, we start understanding, then we can start asking better questions and digging through the data a lot more efficiently. So step one for you, Cam, is I would start making a list of all the different types of event codes, the different types of logs that are out there. And then maybe, however your brain works, try to start figuring out how to map those to the type of activities. And whenever you're searching, your questions are going to be guiding your activities. You're asking questions and you're looking for those answers. So think about it that way while we're going through this. All right, so let me show you what I mean by event codes. So these are the event codes here that each mean something different. So 3 is for network connections, 24 is for authentications like logons. 46, I don't know the rest of these off the top of my head. I don't really use those. But you also have 1s, 4688s. So what we could do is something like this. And then we can say stats count by, then we can say event code. Let's see if whatever field has, let's see, we're looking for the field that tells us what type of event it is. Could be task category. All right, we'll look at task category. Here it is, task category. Task category. All right, what I'm doing here is I'm saying, hey, I want you to take this and put it into an easy to read format so that I can check things out. And we should, if I did it right, we can see on the left the event codes and on the right the task category. And so over here on the far right, we can see the count on the number of logs that are here. So we could also do like a sort by count as well. So here we go. So we can see 4621s, log-ons. Like I said, 34s are log-offs. We also have ones. Ones are a very prominent one we're going to see in environments. These are process creates. There's an alternative, 4688s. Then threes are what I was talking about with network connections. And then these other ones are just other things that you may see, like registry value set. You may see those. You may not in a normal environment. Let's see what else we have here. Process creation. Here's that 4688. First of all, can everyone see my screen, or do I need to zoom in for you? Because I want to make sure everyone can see what's going on here. So let me know. Let me make sure that you can see what I am talking about. And I can zoom in a little bit more for you. There we go. Just let me know. Hopefully that helps a little bit more. And you don't have to memorize all of these, right? As you start digging into this stuff, start notating which ones are actually useful. And then you can start pre-building queries to help you get to the data you want to faster. That's the trick, right? As you get more and more efficient, that's what it looks like. You're able to get to the information you want to, and that's going to be beneficial much, much quicker. So this is pretty quick stats count by. This is a really good one. I'll throw it in chat if you just want to get some quick statistics about something. A very quick way to do that. I'll throw that in chat so you can throw it into your little notebook. There's some other tricks we can do, and we'll check out those tricks in a second. Let's go ahead and star. So star is a wild card. So I'm going to go through and explain as much of this as possible to folks. Feel free to ask more questions, though. Please ask questions if you don't understand something. That is the best way I can help you. All right, so the hard thing here, and this maybe will help you out a little bit, Cam, is that each of these event codes are going to have different fields that you're going to be able to use to search. That's the difficult part here. So what I mean by that is this is an event code 3, and we can see their event or fields such as destination IP, destination port. We can see should have a source IP, source port, source host name. These are all things that are specific to network events. But if we look at a 1, let's see if I can find a 1 for you. We can do that real quick. Star event code equals 1. If we look at a 1, we'll see different ones. So instead of having all that network stuff, we're going to have things related to a process. And these are things such as a hash. So the image that's loaded into the process, we'll get that hash right here. We can use that to do virus total things with. We get information about the file version. We also get process ID, parent image, product information. So the fields that we're seeing in these logs are specific to the type of log that we're actually seeing. So keep that in mind. And that's why it's important to start mapping some of this stuff out. So it's like, okay, if I'm looking at process creation logs, what fields do I actually care about? Now, the crappy thing about this is that these field names may change from environment to environment. It does happen, but if you go into one, you can just check to see what the field names are. And it's pretty easy from that point. You're just like, okay, they just have it different in this environment. You just say, okay, then I need to search these fields. So not a biggie. You just click into one and then look at the field names that you have. If you're working in the same environment over and over, they're going to be pretty consistent. So you won't have to worry about that. Just when you're hopping from lab to lab, they may change. And that's just an engineering side of the house thing where they just changed how they're extracting the fields. So that's why it's kind of odd. It happens. Yeah, so does that make sense, Cam? Hopefully that helps a little bit. Now let's dive into some of this as well. So let's look at process creation logs. So some of the fields, and this is one of the things I do is I start to look at, I'll go through the log and say, what types of fields would help me answer my question? And then I'll put those into a table so that I can start looking at information quickly, right? Because if we keep the events in this format, it's really hard to look in there and figure out which events we care about and which ones we don't, right? We're looking at this like, it's all the same stuff, same host, maybe a couple of different hosts in here, but it doesn't really help us. And we would literally have to click in each one of these, scroll through here, and you can see how time intensive this would be, especially if we're working in an environment where there's hundreds of thousands of hosts. That's a ton of hosts. And I've worked in lots and lots of environments like that, where that is exactly the case. This is where that efficiency comes in handy. Okay, so if we're looking and we're saying, okay, I want to look for weird looking commands. What type of information would we want? If we look in here, we'll say weird commands. What would that be? Command line. This is what's actually being executed like if it were a shell. So we'd want to pull that out. So we would just say table command line. And then that will show up in a table. But I will say we also want to make sure we have time. So I can't remember if this is the one where the underscore time, the default time field is jacked up. It may be, but that's okay. I would definitely recommend getting the most accurate time field out of here because there are like 3 different times. Just so you're aware, there are 3 different times in here, and it's just the way it's documented. So we can see down here. Look at this UTC time, underscore time, and they're pretty different. And there's usually one more time in here as well. There's usually 3. I don't see it. So this one might only have 2. 0408. Yeah, so look at that one, that time. Look, this one's even different than those other 2. So just be careful. And this is a big thing, right? If you're using a different time field for everything, you're going to get yourself in trouble, and it's going to make it really difficult to tie events together. So make sure you're using the same time value for your investigations. All right. So we have time because we want to see the order of events happening, because at the end of the day, as an analyst, we need to look at stuff chronologically because that's going to help us tell the story, right? If we see like privilege escalation at the top and then a download occur or a user login or something like that, they're out of order, it's going to throw us off and we won't be able to tell that story very well. We need to make sure we're always sorting when we look at stuff. It's going to help us, like I say, better understand, better tell a story. Now, so we have that. The other thing we may want is we want to look at process ID, or we want, yeah, process ID, parent process ID, and we also want to see parent image as well, more than likely. So if you don't know, 13 Cubed has a really good video about processes. So check that out. Maybe someone can find a link and drop it. I am working on a video on processes to give you a deep dive. So processes is more than just following the ID number. It's a whole thing. And it's actually pretty cool how processes were designed in the Windows ecosystem. So that's what my video is going to be on, is that, the memory space, all that cool stuff in a process. Uh, but anyways, hierarchy in the relationships is a lot of times what we utilize to map processes together and show that relationship. So parent process ID is like the parent that created another one. So for instance, if we opened a command shell, so cmd.exe, and then we launched calc from it, we would see command.exe as the parent and calc as the child. And so in the real world, what that means is when we see, say, like a user download a piece of malware and execute it, that's probably going to be the parent process. And then we're going to see all this bad stuff happen around it. So we can tie it together in that way. So just something to keep in mind if you haven't thought about it that way. So let's start with adding all this parent information to the table as well. So we'll do parent image. Oops. Casing matters with this stuff. Parent image, parent process ID, and then we want image process ID, probably. I think it's case like that. Let's just double check. Parent process ID. I was just making sure that the I was capital here. We got parent image, probably want parent command line as well. So let's swap these around a little bit. I like to do things in order, it just makes it easier for me to understand it and quickly gather information. So I'll do like this, like that. So we see all the parent stuff and then the child stuff. So it's easier in our minds to make it fit. And let's see if there's anything else we may want. So we might want hashes. That could be a good one. We may want, that's actually probably the big ones that I would like to see. Let's check those out. Okay. So let's go ahead and run with these. And we can sort by time as well. So I broke something. Let's see why. There we go. Maybe and you can sort in here as well. Let's see. Let's do it like this. Huh, that's so bizarre. Okay. That's okay. We'll do it in here. All right. So then, oh, it's because some things are missing fields, I think is the issue here. Interesting. Event code 1, we shouldn't have missing fields. So that's interesting. Okay. Anyways, let's look at this and let me show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to throw this in chat as well, so you can throw this in your notebook. If you're not taking notes, like the professor does, tap, tap, make sure you're taking notes, because you're going to rely on these when you're doing labs. You're going to rely on them when you're working. I have a big wiki, a personal wiki with everything I've done in my 19 certifications. It's in there. I can refer to it. Because believe it or not, some things you may not touch for 6 months to a year. But if you do your notes well enough, you'll be able to dive right into it and run the technique again. It helps. Take notes. Please do yourself a favor and take notes. It's only going to help. And if you run into an environment where you're like in a sensitive environment and you can't access your notes there, create a personal website with all your notes on it, and then you can access them from work. I've done that before. So whatever it takes, right? All right, so what did we get by doing all this filtering? Well, now we can see all this important stuff one line at a time. Look at this. Now we can scroll We can scroll through stuff so freaking fast now, and it's in chronological order. We couldn't do that before. It's insane. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to do something like this to see if we can clean things up real quick. Equals star. When I do it like this, it just says it has to have something in that field, and then we're good. And then we should be able to, let's see, 1253. All right, here we go. So this is going from earliest to latest at this point now. Now with this, we have a bunch of data still, right? We still have 599 events. Could we scroll through those? Yeah, probably. But do we want to? No, especially if we want to do a lot of pivoting, a lot of different types of searches for information, we don't want to just stick with this. We're going to want to refine it. But we need to know what we want to refine on. Right now, we're just like pretty much searching blindly. And this would be a very vague request if you got a task from your supervisor. This is a very vague one. I understand that. But we can, even in this case, we can refine it using time frames. We can refine it by excluding things, right? That's one of the big powers that you have, is the ability to exclude normal things. So if we look at this, we can see some stuff standing out as pretty normal. Splunk D, Splunk Forter here. It's pretty normal, and it's taking up a lot of space. So, and what I did was just change the number of items we have per page. So look at how much space this is taking up, and we really don't want to look at it because we don't care. So what we can do is start excluding this type of stuff and clean up our results. So we can say exclude, and all I did was simply click to exclude it. And now look, we just basically cut our results in half, 243 from 599. So we just shrank that number significantly, and we can continue to go through it in a similar fashion and get rid of stuff we don't care about to find bad. Luckily, we landed on bad pretty immediately here, but if we sort back to the earliest time frames, it'll disappear again. But does that make sense? Where we want to refine the information we're looking. I got hiccups. I swear I haven't drank that much tonight. And if I need to slow down my talking, I can do that as well. I want to make sure people can understand me. Yeah, so we can continue to refine, and believe me, in environments, you're going to have to refine a ton. I'm telling you, with terabytes of data every day, you're going to have to get good at refining. And what you'll start seeing in these environments, you'll start noticing, hey, this script is running every day or every hour. And admins have all kind of scripts running in the environment, and we can exclude those because while we don't care, probably. There are cases where we may care, right? If an attacker gets in there and then they're trying to camouflage utilizing it. But there are things we can do to refine it in such a way that we're not getting rid of everything, right? We do want to be careful with how we filter, but there's nothing to say we can't remove something out of our filter, right? There's nothing that says that. We can always refine and move things around. But yeah, so you're going to see scripts running all the time, certain services running all the time. You're going to see all kinds of stuff going on in a normal environment. And that first few months of your time on the job is going to be you figuring out what does normal look like. And when we exclude that normal, we can start finding bad. And this could be like, certain users may do certain things, right? We see an admin using PS exec to hop from box to box, maybe normal. But if Bob or Cam started doing that in an environment, now it doesn't look so normal. Cam shouldn't be doing that. So now we need to take a closer look at it in context, right? You may hear this from a lot of old school folks where they say context matters. The context of the activity definitely matters. All right, let's keep digging in here. And Cam, if you're still with us, please let me know if you have any questions. If there's anything else, if I'm not quite hitting that concern, let me know, and we can dive into something else as needed. But yeah, so one other thing I want to point out here. This is the process IDs that I want to point out, and we'll look at them. So this is the parent, this is the child process. So this parent image, or this parent process created this baby process. And this is going to come into play when we start looking at the malicious activity that we're going to be looking for in a moment. So keep that in mind. And these numbers are unique. They're very rarely reused on a system. So they are a very unique thing, just like a hash. Hashes are unique. That's why we utilize them. Process IDs are very, very unique. That's why we use them in when we're tracing processes. And processes are pretty much the backbone of what we do in normal endpoint analysis. They are the backbone. So if you haven't dove into process creation logs, you need to get there. I'm not kidding you. This is the backbone of endpoint investigations or processes. So do it. Glad you're with us, Cam. I'm glad I didn't lose you. I'm glad I didn't put you to sleep. All right. So like this is another case here where this is something normal. So a lot of folks, right, if we're taking a SOC course, we're like, oh, look for a NetSH because they could be using that for something, right? It is one of those commands we may see. Or NS lookup. This is a recon activity. But in the context of the environment, if we see it being repeated over and over, we can say, okay, it may be the case where it could be a reconnaissance activity, but in this world, right, in this case, we see it being repeated, so we know it's more than likely, look at this, it's more than likely normal activity, and we can ignore it. And we can see that Exchange is the one doing the NetSH stuff. Let's find another one right here. We can see Exchange is always doing it. So that is what we want to pay attention to. So IEX, where did you see that? Was that with the PowerShell stuff? And yeah, so keep that in mind. Like we see Splunk ex.restart. This could be bad, right? It could be an attacker playing with it, but if we see it repeatedly, it is probably likely that it's just the tool doing its thing. Thanks, Sasquatch, for hanging in there as well. Feel free, Sasquatch, if you have any questions or if you have any input to add to what I'm saying, please do. This is a community. So if you have something to share, please do. It's not going to hurt my feelings if you have something great to say at all. I don't care. I am more than happy to learn something. Yes, I think they'll have some IEX stuff in here. I may be wrong, but we can talk about that as well. We actually did a PowerShell download cradle 2 streams ago where I did a custom one and we did it in a Purple Team lab. So that's a pretty good one. If it is recorded, so if you want to go check that out, go check that out. So we developed it and then we looked in the logs to see it in the PowerShell script block logging log. So the 4104s, 4103s. We don't have any of those here. I don't believe, but they're really common logs as well. Yeah, so yeah, look at all this common stuff. This is just noise. And I am legitimately telling you, in an environment, you're going to have a lot of noise, and you got to get good at ignoring the noise to get to the good stuff. And we can keep narrowing down what we're doing here by just getting rid of stuff like this. We can just say, hey, exclude. I don't care. Now we're at 217, and we just keep looking. Don't look at this guy. Don't look at it yet. I don't want you to look at that yet. Let's see what else. What else can we exclude here? Yeah, PowerShell, or not PowerShell, CrowdStrike has some fun views, but they leave out so much. I definitely encourage you to get into that advanced search. They have so many logs in there that you would never get otherwise. I'm telling you, there's so many good logs, but yeah, in terms of that process hierarchy is what he's talking about. So we were talking about the PID. So process ID is also referred to as the PID, and then the PPID, parent process ID. CrowdStrike makes it look super pretty. I may be able to pull up the picture because I want to show you what he's talking about. A lot of SIMs won't do this, but CrowdStrike actually does it really well. Process tree, CrowdStrike. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, look at this. It's so pretty. so pretty. Look at that. Look at that. It's so many. It does all the connections for you, and then you just like click the pluses and expand out. They even have all the different activities listed in there. They do a lot to help out analysts and speed things up. You can even do playbooks in there. A lot of sims have playbooks now. Lots of really cool stuff. Yeah, you might be a little bit spoiled, Sasquatch. You do well if you have the upgraded functionality in Splunk. So what is it? Splunky Security ES or Splunk ES? I should know this. It has a lot more, a lot cooler functionalities that gets you closer to that CrowdStrike experience. QRadar makes it pretty easy, but they don't have that pretty flow. What's another one? I just saw it in my head. What is it? In-game. In-game has some pretty good stuff as well. Carbon Black has some really good stuff as well. So lots and lots of cool toys out there that'll make your life easier. Let's see what else is in here we can exclude that may not be worth looking at. And so we can, just so folks know, we can exclude stuff on any one of these fields. We just want to make sure that we're not overly broadly excluding stuff. So like, I wouldn't want to exclude run DLL 32 because an attacker could use that to run malicious DLL. So we do want to be careful about how we're excluding, and we want to just make sure that we're good when we do it. Like I wouldn't want to exclude NetSH itself. Wouldn't want to do that, but probably the command line. Maybe I'd like to do that. Or you could do it together where you could say the parent command line is this and the command line is this. We don't want to see it. We could get as granular as that if we want to just make sure we don't miss stuff, right? All right, so let's keep scrolling here. We see some fun stuff. We see Notepad opening up, config file for Splunk. We see some of this repeated activity here. Some repeated activity. We see some more Splunk stuff. And let's see if we can't scroll down here, btool. So sometimes things won't stand out to you when you're just scrolling through like this until you land on something that's like, oh, this is bad. And then you start seeing that kind of relationship, then things start making sense. So context certainly matters in a lot of cases. I'm not sure why. There it goes. It wouldn't let me click. Okay, so I wanted to get us over here. So we see Firefox. Firefox is a browser, so it's starting up. Let's see. We got some more stuff, more Firefox here. Exchange again. We have NetSH, and we have PowerShell. So we see that Exchange, this is the parent, it has kicked off PowerShell over here. Let's take a closer look at the command line. So this would be something that stands out. This is bizarre. Why is this bizarre? Is because we see some obfuscation in here, right? From base 64. We see where they're doing string concatenation. That's what this is called, where they're basically separating the strings or the words in here to make it more difficult for antivirus to actually detect and trigger on bad, right? And the reason why sometimes this stuff gets missed with detections is because they're looking for like this, right? So we see script. Well, you can kind of read this where it's like enable script logging, right? We see this, but they may look for that word together. And if they were, this isn't going to be detected because they broke it up. So that's what I'm talking about. They're breaking words up so that it's hard to detect. And this is an AMZ bypass. So like, see this right here? If you want to see something funny, just type in AMZ in your PowerShell and it should trigger. It used to trigger and say, hey, this is malicious. And it's because it's what's running in the background in Windows to detect malicious code. And so they break it up. And if you break it up like this may be caught by now, but if you break it up in a certain way, it won't be caught. And then you can basically turn it off in that PowerShell session. And that's exactly what they're doing here. So they're disabling AMSI, a security tool, and then they're executing something. I don't know what they're executing because it's encoded. And excuse me, we'd have to decode it to figure it out. And we can, don't worry, we'll get to it. And we can see some additional stuff executing here. So hopefully that makes sense so far. This is bad. It's pretty obvious bad, and it just stands out just in general. And what we would look for is try to tie it back. So like I said, this is odd. It's running from an exchange process. So that's pretty peculiar. So I'm not sure how exactly this was executed, and we'd have to dig in more. Yes, we could go to CyberChef. Great point, Cam. So CyberChef is great. I'll spin it up in a second and pull it up here, and we can take a peek at it. It will definitely help with your encoding needs. But we're going to take another look to see what else we have in here. So we can see here that this PowerShell, this is actually super important. So we can see here that this PowerShell process that we said, hey, this looks pretty bad. It spun up a command process, a command.exe process. So this is where that parent-child relationship comes in. Hey, we know this is bad. Now we want to see what else this process did, and it's going to help us tell that story. So this is where that piece comes in that I was talking about. And this is this looks pretty bad too with a trib where it looks like it may be, I'd have to look up what the -r means, but I think it's changing permissions on a specific file, I think is what that means. Feel free to look that up for me if you would like. XSD could work too. CyberChef is way better. CyberChef is definitely better. Makes life easier, especially if we have to pivot and do some stuff. All right, now what else we can do is we can look for this command line process, because right now we don't really see what it's doing. We don't know what the command process is doing, which is fine. So we see some more command down here. So we see who am I right here. Hopefully you folks can see that, an IP config. So we definitely see some of that classic reconnaissance there. It could change the attributes recursively, potentially. And we can look that up here. See, we could say attrib TACR. We'll do AI. I've been pretty lazy with it recently. So it represents the read-only attribute, display, set, or remove. So is used to remove the read-only attribute from a file or directory. Interesting, right? Why would an attacker do that? So good questions. These are questions that you should be asking yourself that are going to help prod your investigation. Why would someone want to remove that? Like, okay, let's dig. Let's look. Yeah, good. Recon's huge. And then when you start getting into privilege escalation, that's the fun stuff where you start learning about exploits and whatnot. Got to have some big monitors. Although I don't like those obnoxious monster monitors. Mine, I think, is a decent size. It's like, it's like this big, You can't tell what the size is when you're doing it. But it's yay big. It's like a normal size. Not like covering my whole desk. Like I have a big desk here. It definitely doesn't even take up half. Yep, cutting out the noise and knowing where to look. Exactly. All right, so let's see, where do we want to start? Do we want to dive right into CyberChef? We can. And this is where kind of you choose your own Avenger in cybersecurity, and you kind of lean into your strengths. You're like, okay, I'm pretty good in decoding stuff, or I think this is going to be pretty pivotal to me understanding what's going on in the environment. So I'm going to choose to do this piece first. There is no right answer. If you get the right answer, maybe. There's no answer if you get the right answer. So let's take this, and some of it is not going to decode cleanly. I am going to tell you that just because of the string concatenation stuff going on, but we'll be able to decode some of this PowerShell here with just a little bit of work, not a ton of work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Mousepad real quick. And what we'll do is kind of convert things live, like as we go. At least this is pretty big. Boom. Look at this monster. And there are sometimes tools, if they use the tool to do all the work for them, where they're doing the gosh, my brain is fried. The obfuscation. There you go. I was looking for the big cybersecurity word. There are tools that you can use to, and they do like a pretty predictable obfuscation technique. We can use that to quickly unravel this. But if it's not, we'll have to do some manual stuff. So, things like these right here, we may have to manually do. CyberChef isn't going to do this for us, but it may be able to help us understand what a 2 or a 0 is. And that is likely to be related to probably, let's see if it's in here. It's usually like an order thing. But let's grab all of this here. So this is all base 64. So what we need to make sure we do here, and when we start manually decoding stuff, we can get ourselves into trouble very, very quickly, by the way. Because if we mess up, we're going to be in trouble. When you get better at this stuff, we can also utilize PowerShell to do a lot of the work for us, and it will help, such as we can have it do everything but the execute portion, but we have to make sure we do it right or it's going to run on a system or we do it in a sandbox where it's not going to blow up on us. So let's take a peek at this. We do have these, and we need to figure out how to resolve these zeros. And I am not going to try to do it in my brain, but it should be like an order thing in here. That's what I was talking about. Usually they're like placeholders. This isn't a variable the way they're using it. It's done in like a sequential order. So there should be something that's a 0 and a 1. And we can be super lazy also, by the way, where we just take it and say, I just want to make sure I get the whole fill. We can just take it and say, hey, fix this. Let's see. So we can do it in here, actually. You say analyze, and like even Geetra has AI in it. You just need to be able to double check it and help it make sense. Analyze this PowerShell command. Let's see what it does. Let's actually see how it does. I'll let you know if it's full of crap. Let's see, string obfuscation. We want the 0. I'm looking for where it tells us what the 0 is. My brain is fried, so sometimes it doesn't work. Let's see, give me details like 0 meaning. Yep, they're definitely concatenating this stuff in memory. So format operator takes on the left of the list of values. Here it is. So we're looking for the dash. Here we go. So we're looking for the dash F. So this stuff here. So this is where it would be like you would be replacing. So like this would be 0. Well, that doesn't make sense either. So there should be a dash F somewhere. Let's do this instead. Let's see if we can make it look pretty. So let's see if we can do a beautify. Generic could beautify. That didn't do anything for us. Boo. Let's get rid of that. Maybe that helps. Nope, you're not too late ever, Fitness. Thank you for joining. So what we're looking for is trying to figure out where the zeros are, and my eyes are going cross-eyed this late at night. And so this should be it. But what my concern was that this should be 0, but enable. No, this should be right. So this will be an E here. Let's see. PowerShell Deobfuscator. Fuscator. Let's see, there is a tool out there. Let's see if this will do it. Ah, here we go. Let's see if this works. Ah, I didn't do it all the way. Lame. Missed a few things. So this one just doesn't do it in order. This isn't the tool I was thinking of either, though. Sad face. It did make it easier to read, though. Magic's not going to do it because Magic doesn't run the code, unfortunately. So we will have to do some work, but we can kind of do that somewhat. Like I was trying to avoid doing this by hand, but we can definitely do it by hand. Let me see if me fixing this up here. And it might help if we just get rid of like the front and end of it. Maybe it will understand it better. Or maybe it won't. Oops. Let's copy this. Let's throw it in Notepad. At least we have something a little bit cleaner. Okay. We can work this a little bit easier. It's a little bit more friendly to look at. All right. So this is argument here. And it's so sad it didn't actually break these down for us a little bit better. So like all of these, when we're looking at this, and yes, some of it is obfuscated in base64, some is string concatenation, some are string formatting. So there's a couple of different things going on here. That's why I was really trying to be lazy, guys. You're not letting me be lazy tonight on a Thursday. Come on, guys. I've been working all day. That's okay. We'll have some fun together. All right. We'll have some fun. All right. So what I'm doing here is I'm just looking to make sure we don't screw up here. Okay. So like this string formatting here. So this is, and I'm trying to chunk it up so we can do it right. So this is the 0. So remember, we're counting like a computer. So if we look for any zeros up here, we should, actually this is for that one. So this is an E. So we're just looking back here. So this is going to be an E. 1 is going to be an R. Like that. 2 is going to be a P. And we got to get rid of that. And then he added all this craziness. And we can fix this string concatenation while we're at it. How about that? We'll make it pretty. And then 3 is, so 0, 1, 2, 3. 3 is going to be L. And this is basically how you would decode it. So does that make sense how we're doing that? So this is string formatting, and basically what we can do now is essentially remove this whole formatting stuff because we know what that line is going to be. So wherever TX is at, it's going to be replaced by enable script block logging. Hopefully that makes sense to folks. Now we can do it with the next section, right? Where we say 1 is going to be S, or 0 is going to be S, sorry. So this is going to be replaced with S. 1 is going to be T. It's going to pull this out, and we're going to say T. 2 is going to be P. And then we can clean up the rest of this. Boom, 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 just like that. And now we can remove all this. And now we know what's going to be replaced here. Oops, there we go. And we missed an I somewhere. How did I do that? Maybe they screwed up because there wasn't an I in here unless I missed. Ah, I did miss the I. Look at that. See, this is why you have to be careful. You screw something up, you got to go back and fix it. There we go. All right, it makes sense. It works now. Yeah, so that's one that's one of the dangers of doing this by hand is if you screw it up, well, you're gonna have to go back and find it. For I 10 through 100, it looks like you're trying to do a. Where'd you get that one at? Is that in here? Are you ahead of me? Are you skipping ahead of me, man? So it looks like a loop, a 0 through 100 loop. You'll see something like that if they're doing like a port scan. That's a fun way to do it. All right. This is one of the slow ways to do it. Like I said, we could have been doing some other, there's some other ways to do this, definitely. But, if you want to do it manually, there's nothing wrong with it. You just got to be really, really careful. Break stuff down. Make sure you don't screw anything up. And so I like try to separate things like this. This is how I do it if I'm doing it manually. And you just have to look where there's breaks, right? I'm looking for these semicolons is what I'm looking for a break. And that helps out quite a bit. Until you have these if statements. And then it screws you up a little bit. And then you have another if. And what I'll try to do too is do the indentions to help me understand what's going on. Because it helps to understand the code flow. And if you don't do it that way, you'll kind of mess up your understanding of what's going on, unfortunately. And let's see, else. Do that there. We're just going to break this up a little bit, and then we'll go down and look at the script block logging stuff. Or not the script block logging, the from base 64 section. So let me figure out where our break is. There. I think this is our break. Okay. So we can do exactly what we did before. So DAC F. So I don't know why dash F, why it's like this. Maybe something got screwed up. But it should be a 0 is an F. And then a 1 is an 8. So let's just make sure that's all we have here. I think that's all we have here. So what we're going to have to do is anytime we see these pluses, we'll have to remove them. Anytime we see a 0, we're going to have to replace it with an F. Or what is it? An F, yes. So it's pretty slow. This is the most unsexy cybersecurity lesson ever. Yeah, I mean, we could loop through this. Again, we could also play with it. So we could actually do that where we say string format and we actually just run it. So let me see if I actually have PowerShell installed on this, because we could do that. I do have PowerShell. Look at that. How about that? All right, so let's play with this. So if we did from base 64 and we pull all this, we could, and we're about to see if my tired brain works. We just need to get, let's see, 3. We need 3 of these. So I'm going to put this in another thing here, from base 64 convert. That's close 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think this is going to break over here because of this, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll give it a go. Let's give it a go. Boom. Unexpected is an expression or statement. So we can play with this dynamic analysis time. Yeah, let's make it easy. Let's see. Fitness set, are those functions set to the variables commonly seen within PowerShell executable? No, but this is a common obfuscation technique that you will see out there, especially some of the click fix things, and other very similar tactics. And even whenever you see download cradles, you'll see obfuscation. And like invoke obfuscation is one of the tools, and invoke obfuscation. And there's just a bunch of really common techniques. And so you'll see just stuff like that all the time. So you can see how it's pretty well developed. I'll put this in chat if you want to play with it. You can just install it and play with it in Kali. So pretty fun time. But yeah, there's just a ton of different types of obfuscation techniques that help. Defenses are getting a lot better where this doesn't work like it used to. It used to be pretty easy and trivial to bypass, but now things are just getting better. Nature of the game. So PowerShell Cradle, yeah, let's take a look. So download cradles. Let's take a look. So these are just basically helping you pull and run something. And so PowerShell download cradles, you'll typically see like an invoke expression, and that's what we see here in IEX, so invoke expression, and then you'll see a download. And what happens is you essentially pull like a PowerShell, like a PS1 file or something that's actually you would run in PowerShell, so a script, and then you invoke it. So there's usually a download and then an execution, and that's what we call a download cradle. Hopefully that makes sense, Cam. And you can see it here where you see the PS1 and then they run it. As soon as it gets pulled down. So it's almost like a wget and then run. And it's specific to PowerShell. But you could do similar stuff in other languages as well. Kind of a variety of that. But when you hear PowerShell, download cradle, this is what you would look for. My screen is super tiny. Let me zoom in for you. And I can even drop this in here. Make sure you don't, I don't think these will lead anywhere. There you go. But you can check it out and play with some of those examples if you want. And all you got to do is just change the IP address. You can throw up a web server if you want to play with it. So good times there. Now, the question is, do we want to figure out where to go? I swore we had it open. We can try to fix this. So there's something wrong with it. And question is what? And I'm looking. 1, 2, 3. It should be that easy. Here's one. There's an extra one maybe. Maybe there should only be 2. You can see. Why does it keep opening it? Okay. I'm telling you, ignore me when I've worked all day. I sometimes do stupid stuff. It happens. So unexpected token. So it's not liking something here. And we can look at it here probably, and it will show us. So 2 here. It's not, so it's kind of breaking right here. Because I imagine the highlighting would work. So this isn't as, it's not working as great as I thought it would, but we can also do something like this. We can do string and replace stuff. So we could say, let's see, find and replace. Let's see, where's it at? It's find and replace. Here we go. So we can do something like this. So search for this plus this. And we can just say replace with nothing. So we can say, boom, replace all. Now we can do, look for this. And we can replace it with F. And yep, that is correct. I was just double checking my work. Then we can do a 1. And then we can replace that with an 8. And now we should have a pretty clean script. And then we just take this, and then now we can throw it in PowerShell, or Power CyberChef, not PowerChef. Sheesh, I swear I haven't been drinking that much. All right, now instead of doing this, we need to do what? we need to base64 decode. Now, caution, PowerShell uses a slightly different base64 decode, so it's not going to look pretty. And the other problem is that we also noticed that it was compressed at some point. So right here, we see it being decompressed. So we may need to decompress whatever this is first. Let's see. I got to look to see what type of compression it is. Let's see. System IO compression might be maybe this. Nope, didn't like that one. There's some kind of compression, so we're going to have to decompress here. Gosh, I've done this before. Maybe unzip? Nope, didn't like that either. Maybe raw inflates? Nope, didn't like that either. We just had to figure out what type of compression it was, and I'm like skipping around. Decompress. It might tell us somewhere. Generic hash, stream reader. No, it is gzip. It's supposed to be gzip. At least that one up there is. So this is where like the fun is, where you need to be able to unscramble it. And we have to look. So this is all from base64, but it's also decompressed first. So it's decompressed. So from base64, then decompress. So maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we're just doing it in the wrong order. So we do this order. There we go. Works. Bingo. Got it. Whew. All right. So this is part of reverse engineering as well, as where you have to follow code flow. And I'm just being super fast. I did it in the wrong order. I did gunzip first, and then I did base64, but it was reverse. Because right here, we see that this happens first. So the base64 piece happens first, and then the results of that is then decompressed here. So that was the issue. That's why it didn't work. Now we actually have all the results right here for folks to see, and I'll put it in here. So now we can see the types of things that are actually happening. So Cam was correct. It was gunzip. How did you figure that out? Did you read the gunzip piece? Did you see the string in there? So here we go. We can see some of the stuff here. This is a fun little thing, and we can see some more base64 encoding in here as well. So if you don't see that, we see that right here. So we can do some base64 decoding as well. This is a fun little technique that you can see being used, and we can see here, and this is only because I'm pretty familiar, we can see this is called WinAPI usage. So virtual alloc, virtual protect. So this looks to me like it would be a process injection going on, and simply because I know those WinAPIs. Well, good to know, Cam. So kernel DLL, so wait for single objects. So this is more than likely a process injection, just simply based on the functionality I'm seeing. So this is a fun little thing, and you can see where they're actually they're doing assemblies and stuff. And so for a lot of folks don't know, but you can execute C# inside PowerShell. So PowerShell is actually built on top of that. And so because of that, you can do all these WinAPI things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So you can't really do that in the command line without some funky stuff. But PowerShell, it is a lot more powerful than most people think. So it's pretty cool. It looks like we like to double encode things and make our students try to crack it. Fun. That's awesome. Let's see, what else? Oh, let's base64 just decode this piece here. question for folks watching. Does it make sense when I'm talking about Win APIs? This is kind of weird stuff I don't expect new analysts to know about, but it is when you start looking at malware, ransomware, things like that. They are using Win APIs, and they're actually doing them in a much more complex way. This would most certainly be caught nowadays. They're doing it in a way because it makes it a lot more difficult to follow along when you utilize Win APIs. And this is kind of all the stuff happening under the hood of Windows. A lot of people don't know about too much later. So it's a really cool way, and it's meant for developers to interact directly with the operating system is why they're there. But bad guys like to use things developers like to use as well. So there's the fun there. Very cool. So if you start getting the malware dev, and I did this a lot at my last job, pick up a book. There's quite a few books on Win APIs. You're going to have to learn C++, C, and C because they are C data types if you want to start programming with Win APIs. Just a warning. So get ready to be frustrated because it is a very frustrating journey. I do want to prepare you for that. Let's see, we just got to turn this off, and now we have this. So obviously it's coming out very peculiarly. I don't even know if that's a word, but we do see some strings in here, right? We do see something here. We see when in it. I don't see a header that we would typically associate with an executable. So I don't know what this is. We'd have to go back and look to see what's actually occurring here to better understand it. So this is bytes. So they're doing the raw bytes here. So we may need to do a from bytes on this one. Or some kind of encoding. Let's do from. Oh, let's see, from binary maybe? Nope. I'm trying to remember which, maybe it's just a decode. Trying to remember, can you cut me through the door? C++ is gross. Oh, can you see out me through the, nice, I see what you did there. That's a good joke. Yeah, C++ is tough. It's very, very tough. There's some really good Udemy courses on it, though. I probably took about 3 months to get up to speed on it before like I started doing an intermediary malware dev course, and I was like, got to stop. I need to fill in some gaps, and I stopped for a few months to get spun up on the dev, and then I went back into it. Know when you don't know something and fill in those gaps. I'm telling you, it's a good way to go. All right, so I need to remember. Does anyone remember what you convert from? Maybe it's just a decode. Decode text, maybe? I'm trying to remember what it is. We could try magic. It may be able to figure it out for us. There should be something here. Nothing of interest could be detected. Let's see. What if we do it this way? So it is struggling here. Let's give it extensive mode. Let's see. But we should be able to check it out. You prefer Java. My best friend is a Java dev, and I give him grief all the time about how terrible it is. See, Fitness did a research project not too long ago on LLMs, checking when API calls with behavior analysis for malicious calls. It was pretty interesting work. Look at you, man. That sounds some pretty complex stuff. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, LLMs can do some fun stuff. I have to sneeze. I'm going to mute. Maybe. Maybe not. Damn it. I couldn't get the the mute button down. First was C sharp. I've been pretty grateful that it was the first. So one of the fun thing to know about C sharp, it's one of the few languages you can decompile almost exactly back to where it was before. And so where this comes into play is there was a solar winds big catastrophe, what, 5, 6 years ago, and that malware was actually written in C sharp. And so we could decompile it and analyze it a lot easier than having to go through the debugging and the crappy decompiling that you would do with like Go or C or something like that. So if you didn't know that, now you do. It makes your life a lot easier. Let's see. So what we're doing here is sometimes if magic plays nice, and I haven't got it to play nice for a while, is that it will, if you see and hear snippets that make sense, that means magic was able to decode it successfully. And the entropy over here, the higher the entropy, the more likely it is to be compressed or encrypted. But when we do from base 64 and then do magic, it's not working. So we still have a problem. We need to figure out how to get it to decode. And I did this last time, and I can't remember which ones I did. I thought it was binary. It should be bytes, but I don't know. Let me look at it again. Let's see. System convert from base 64. We're saying it is going to be bytes. Is this used anywhere else? Let's see if this is used anywhere else. It may be. No. Uh-oh. I highlighted this. It didn't like that I highlighted it. Here it is. And then it injects it into the process. Because virtual allocating. So what this is saying for those that aren't familiar with WinAPI. So virtual alloc, you'll see stuff like this where it's saying basically allocate memory the size of this thing I want to throw in there. So that's what they're doing. And this may be shellcode, and we may not even be able to read it anyways. So that's more than likely what it is, actually independent shellcode. So I may be trying to do this for knots. Just based on what I know about process injection. Usually it's shellcode. We'll probably leave that for now. Let's see, just because you're not going to be able to see it, shellcode, and we'd have to look at it in assembly or a different language, and then we would walk through it, but that's typically what you do. So there's a bunch of different encoding schemes, and bytes mean things and all that, and it's a fun little thing to get down. What do you mean by DLL injection? I don't think this is a DLL injection, but those are fun too, DLL injections. Same with search order hijacking, DLL proxying. Those are very, very fun things as well. Okay, so where do we want to go here? So we looked in Splunk, we're looking around at stuff, we dove into this. The fun thing for those still following along here is that PowerShell is going to systematically walk through this, untangle all of it. It's going to be really hard for you to read. That's why they do it this way. If we had 4104s, it would unscramble all of this for us. And it'd make life a lot easier. But all we have, I think these were our ones. So all we have are ones, which make our life much, much more difficult. So keep that in mind. If we have 4103s work even better as well. But either one of those, 4103 or 4104, our life would be much, much easier. Now, when we're talking about getting IOCs, indicators, or compromise, things that we can search on. So one of the things we may do is like, hey, we see this host is compromised. Okay, what types of things can we grab to see if any other hosts are being targeted in the same way? We can grab things out of here, such as there was like a specific registry item that was modified. We can look for this code on another system, right? We could look for very similar processes, and we wouldn't even need to look for the whole thing. We could just look for like a section of the code like this and just search for it across the entire enterprise to see if anything else is demonstrating that same thing. Let's see what else we have. We have SC here. Let's see, who am I? So one of the fun things we can do is we see that command.exe. So we can look for this process. So 10116. If we find 10116 over here in the process ID section, we know some bad has happened. And if we see something from 15800, we also know something bad has happened, 15800. So these are things we can look for. We would also look for, so something I didn't pull out is the user. We definitely want to pull out the user when we're looking at these types of logs, because we would consider that user compromised. We would need to do some isolation on the host. We would need to isolate that user and say, hey, you know, kill any of their authentications, things like that. So Cam, what do you mean? So is my priority internal, external enumeration execution in which context? As a blue teamer investigating or as an offensive person? So I'll answer that question, then I'll answer your question. How about that? While you're doing that, I'll respond to fitness. Is it unusual to see certain process injections with preset amount of allocated memory to mimic a certain memory allocation to certain window process? So process injection is very, very uncommon in most environments. Very uncommon. In fact, you typically will not see signs of process injection because they're going to be running an executable and it's all happening behind the scenes. So you actually won't see process injection. The only way to confirm process injection, or if you see where maybe the shell code was downloaded somewhere else, or you do a memory capture, so you pull down all the RAM or the RAM of a suspected process and you extract the shell code or whatever, or the binary, whatever was injected into that process and executed. Process injection sucks, is very difficult. CrowdStrike might actually be able to help with that pretty good. To answer your question, so Cam said, is the priority internal, external enumeration execution? So both. So one is we want to identify, and this is pretty consistent across the board, you want to identify the splash radius of something. So this is a quick task where we identify something we can search on. We're going to search across the board. Once we identify anything else with similar behaviors, we're isolating. Now, after we've isolated, now we're going to say, how did this bad guy get in? And then now we're going to start broadening that. And we're going to say, oh, we see them interacting with these IPs. Boom, add them to the block list. Okay, what executable is downloaded? Okay, let's search all the systems, look for that executable. Maybe look up Intel and try to identify, try to do some kind of attribution so we can see if it's tied to a larger campaign. There's a lot of things we do, but blast radius is first. We want to contain, then we want to identify how they got in and prevent that, or identify any other system that may be vulnerable in that same way. So there's lots of things that are going on. Typically, they're going to in order of limiting damage as soon as possible. Hopefully that answered both of your questions. Let me know if it did. I'll be happy to dive in even more. Let's see. So I think unless we have any more things we want to dive into, do we want to look at any more logs? I want to leave enough time that I look at both of these resumes and we can get questions. So do we want to dig in more on the Splunk side, or do we want to switch gears and start looking at resumes? Let me know in the comments what kind of votes do we have. Happy to go either way, but we're definitely getting the resumes in tonight. For sure, for sure, for sure. Let's see what else. Like the exchange stuff is pretty wild. I think this was Conti and they abused some exchange stuff. There's a on-premise exchange has been pretty heavily targeted, and yeah, And so what they'll do, and you'll see stuff like web shell backdoors and things like that getting implanted. I think this one had a web shell backdoor, if I remember. Well, we have usernames being added and all that. Um, but yeah, I mean, especially if it's involved like initial foothold as exploit, you definitely want to dig into identifying what that exploit is. A better way to identify the exploitation of that vulnerability. And then you obviously want to put some kind of remediation steps in place, whether it's block it off with a firewall until you can get a fix from the vendor, or you do an update because somehow they hit it before you got your patch management stuff going on. Oh yeah, I think Conti was one of the ones where they had a huge internal struggle. I think this was one of the ones on Darknet Diaries, if I remember correctly, and it was pretty good time to listen to. All right, so we have a vote for resumes. So I have 2 resumes here that we'll look at, and we can go ahead and get started. Make sure we have time, because I know people really want to get hired. So resumes are probably top of mind. So we have bachelor number 1 here. So let me frame this so that I can make a good short out of it and cut it out so folks can look at it later. So we're going to look at our first resume of the day. The idea here isn't to blast them out of existence with the resume review, but to actually give some practical tips on how to improve these resumes so they're more likely to get a job. With whatever's on here, or give them an idea of things to work on as they go through their journey, things that they can add to make themselves more marketable, right? So we're not here to give them a hard time. we're here to give the folks whose resumes are in here, really good, valuable feedback. And some of the folks should be in chat tonight. So feel free, if this is your resume, feel free to ask follow-up questions or hit me up in Discord afterwards, and I will be happy to answer those. All right, without any more ado, let's dive in here. So this person is a Cyber Common Technical Core instructor, writer, network module lead. So basically they're setting the tone, hey, I'm an instructor and I focus in network stuff specifically right now. They have a Gmail, they have a LinkedIn here, good stuff. I will tell you, for those who aren't using LinkedIn well, do so, because folks, hiring managers and folks who are going to interview, if they are, they're going to look at LinkedIn. And guess what? You have a lot more space than you do on a resume. So this person has 2, this is Cam's, this person has 2 pages, but LinkedIn profile, you can be as big, as verbose as possible. And if you're doing research and blogs, you can put them in there, and those folks can go look at those blogs, look at your interactions with the community. Really great place to talk yourself up is LinkedIn. So definitely do that. All right. So retired Marine Corps. I won't do any Marine Corps jokes tonight, maybe a little bit later. Uh, I'm Army retired, so I can talk crap. All right, so veteran, Marine Corps veteran, results driven, 4 years of specialized experience in cyberspace operations, cyber instruction, operational planning. So first sentence, they're setting the tone of what we are to expect here in the rest of the resume. We're expecting to see all of these items that were mentioned. Strong background in designing, leading, and delivering advanced cyber training. Proven leader in technical instruction, cyber readiness, and team development. Skilled communicator, public speaking, mentoring, talent acquisition, adept at translating complex technical concepts into real world applications. So, not too bad. Pretty good start. You're setting the tone for the rest of this. We'll see if you have the proof here. You could probably be a little bit more detailed about the things, the value you're providing folks besides these. These are super high level. And this is going to be the first thing they read. So I would suggest making this a little bit stronger, talking more in depth about the actual like hard technical skills that you're bringing to the table. Definitely some good stuff there. I think you can tweak it, improve it a little bit more. Something I do like here we have certifications at the top. So this is especially good for other folks who don't have any real world experience. Put them up top. It's like a newspaper where you do the most important things first. So he has them up here, which is fantastic. We have a Sec Plus, TryHackme Sec 1. We have a Cisco Certified Support Technician Networking. We even have that he's pursuing a Blue Team Level 1. So what's great here is that he's pursuing one thing, which is fantastic, right? Some people I've seen with 3 or 4 things that they're pursuing. You can't do that. I know Cam is actually pursuing 2 different things at once, but he only put 1 here, so good for you. So not bad, right? You're catching my attention. They're doing stuff. He's qualifying for entry-level positions. We've already spoken about BTL1 in Discord, so definitely good stuff there. Let's look at his professional experience. So, oops, wow, I was trying to scroll down. It did not work out. All right. So he is an instructor, a writer, a network module lead. So he's trained 163 students in both offense and defensive cyber operations with a high pass rate. He's designed labs, which is really good, and capture the flag scenarios in pen testing, network analysis, and post-exploitation techniques. He's the lead instructor for networking. He's authored courseware using different tools, Markdown, Python scripting, Git repositories, PCTE, CVTE. He talks about the different topics he's instructed on and continuously updated curriculum to reflect real world stuff. So the last one's a little fluff for you. All right, so here's the danger you put yourself in with this stuff. If you don't feel confident with answering this, because as an interviewer, I'm gonna ask you about all this stuff. Like, okay, talk to me about some of the challenges you're doing in pen testing. Talk to me about some of the scripting that you've done. These are things that are going to come out in the interview. So I'm sure you feel very confident with these. But for those of you who are fluffing up your resume with stuff, I've had it almost, I would say 90% of the interviews, people fluff their resumes up. And when I ask them about the topics, they crumble. You're going to fail the interview if that's you, if you do that. Don't do that. Make sure whatever you put in your resume, you can talk to strongly, right? You don't want to look like a deer in the headlights when I ask you about this stuff. But he's teaching it. I'm sure he can talk to it really well. Just wanted to put that out there. I thought it was a good learning point for most people. So pretty strong. That's pretty good. So he's been doing it since 2024 to present. So that's what, a year and a half, if my math is correct. So pretty good. That means you should, at a minimum, be pretty competitive for an entry level position for sure. But we also have some additional stuff down here. Future operations chief from June 2023 to August 2024, so a year. So you're led cyber defense planning for a cyber warfare group, and with NSA collaboration, assisted in developing rotational frameworks. So this is all operational level, which means for folks out there who aren't kind of in this world, so we have 2 different levels, right? We have management, which is where I'm at now, which sucks, which is what this operations chief stuff did. And then we did more technical hands-on stuff here, which is what the instructor network module lead stuff is. So he actually has a pretty good balance. He'd probably make a really good manager in a SOC as well. I'm gonna go through the last experience. I see you have a question, Cam. I'll answer that in a second. So his other one, so from September 2021 to June 2023, he was a cyberspace warfare operator. Sounds very fancy. And executed defensive cyberspace operations supporting DoD, simulated adversary TTPs, pretty cool. Conducted network enumeration, traffic analysis, lateral movement detection, cool. Supported threat hunting missions, very cool. So I would say with this all encompassing together, right, he's been in cybersecurity since 2021. He should be in a really, really strong space. Now, does it speak directly to being a SOC analyst? In some spaces, yeah, like this cyber warfare operator, maybe. Well, it says he conducted network enumeration, traffic analysis, yeah. Lateral movement detection. So some of this does line up, maybe not exactly with a SOC analyst, but the skills definitely are usable for SOC analysts, SOC managers, things like that. So definitely nothing wrong with this. I think it's a great resume here. So we have a question, for example, with scripting, let's say it's a video interview. Is it okay to show examples of some scripts or just speak to things? More than likely, you're just going to be able to speak to those, Cam. You could, I actually haven't had anyone share those with me. Maybe you would share a link to your Git repo and then I can look through those. Or if you have a lot of examples, I would add your Git repo link in here. And it would be something as a hiring manager, I would go there to your Git repo beforehand to see what you've been getting up to. That is something I definitely do. I look at that because I want to, and sometimes it's scary because I dive into a lot of places and it's not that you're failing the interview, it's that I want to know everything that you know. I want to know essentially what I'm buying as a hiring manager, right? I'm investing a lot of money into a person. So I want to know what I'm getting for that money. So I'm going to ask questions all over the place. And I want to imagine how you're fitting into my current staff. Are you filling in areas where we're currently weak? Do I foresee that you're going to be a good leader? Where do I see you moving throughout the organization as your career grows? So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions to help me, visualize how you're going to fit into my organization. So that was a little bit more than you asked, but hopefully, hopefully that answered your question, Cam. All right, education. So we see that we have a bachelor's in computer science with a concentration in cybersecurity. Perfect. That hits a lot of government stuff. We want to see something related to cybersecurity. Concentration here. Beautiful. And it also helps you where for any entry level position, you either have to have a certain amount of experience or degree. You have both. So you fit into those. I forget what the government term is for LCATs or something like that. But you fit in there nicely, so you qualify for a lot of stuff. So I know you're worried about being able to get roles wherever you're at. If they have cybersecurity roles, you should be a fit. You should be getting an interview for it just based off of what I'm seeing so far. Let's see, you got your skills down here. These are things I would ask you questions about as well. So pretty good. Oops. God, I keep scrolling the mouse thinking it's going to roll down, but it doesn't. Let's see, projects. And then he's working on a game plan or a video game for cybersecurity. So this is a good talking point too. So that's pretty cool. We also see that he has a clearance. So you would be a very attractive candidate. So I think you said you're still in the military currently. Cool. You should be getting a lot of callbacks if you start putting in for places around wherever you're going. Just put that out there. You should be getting callbacks. Besides improving a little bit on your summary up here, maybe in completing your blue team level 1, doing those two things, you should be in a really good spot. You, with your experience, you should be actually in a really good place to get callbacks even without blue team level 1. You're in a really good spot. So just keep that in mind. For a cybersecurity role in the government, though, you will probably need one more certification like the CYSA. That would be something I would look at. So look at 8570. Oh, okay, you're already out. You should be getting callbacks. If not, let's have a conversation. Maybe you're looking at the wrong roles. This is a really good resume that I would be calling and saying, hey, I want to interview this person. So just putting that out there. So if your resume looks like this and you want to work in Charleston, Hawaii, or Germany, hit me up. I can hook you up with a place to put in a resume. Yeah, for some reason I thought you were still doing it. I saw present here. I was like, oh yeah, I think he's still in. Cool. Okay. Ask me any more questions, Cam. Get some stuff together if you have any more questions. I want to get this other resume in, and yeah, we can keep talking about it, but I want to make sure we get both of you guys in today. All right, so last resume of the evening. We're going to dive into this person's resume, give them really good feedback, see if we can help them out, help them get a job. And let's look at it. So we have a really slim summary. They probably did that because they wanted to keep a single pager, which a lot of folks are told to do. 1 to 2 pages is okay. Don't get too stressed about trying to get it down to one page if you don't have experience. Don't worry about that. Let's take a peek at it. Security operations analyst with a background in IT support, software development, experience in phishing investigations, SIM-based alert triage, log analysis, and incident response fundamentals through hands-on labs, real-world technical support environments. All right, so got a couple of things here, right, where we're saying we have experience through hands-on labs, real-world technical support environment. So he's saying he's done both, which is good, right? He's setting the tone. He's not over-promising, which is great. I like when people do that. You're telling me, hey, maybe I haven't got a ton in real life, but I'm working on it. I'm learning. Great. So they're a client service or client service center senior agent. Can't talk. These are things they're doing. Investigated technical security related cases. Cool. So he's kind of getting his feet wet. Monitored, analyzed security alerts related to assessment activity. Looking for patterns, unauthorized access, triage user reported incidents. So cool. Supported secure client software deployment. So that's IT specific. Develop secure internal email templating tool using Python, improving case handling, efficiency, ensuring consistent, compliant communication. That last bullet, what I read is, hey, I might not be experienced, but I'm not afraid to show initiative and develop stuff. I love that. I love that here. I forgot who sent this resume, and there's a Discord channel, but I love seeing that. A lot of folks are too afraid to branch out, try stuff. It's definitely something I encourage my team to do. Hey, you see a problem, solve the problem. Just get out there, get messy, Miss Frizzle style. You're hearing me say that all the time. I love it. I love seeing that. That's a great bullet. That definitely perks up my ears, even though I don't see the super SOC focused stuff. I love seeing that. I love seeing that to me, I read this and I say, oh, this person's really working hard to get that experience so you can get a job. I love seeing this. Let's see what else we have. Skills, you mentioned SOC monitoring, alert triage. You're pointing it out. What SIM you're in, phishing, email, network, endpoint log analysis, incident response fundamentals, threat intelligence fundamentals, malware analysis basics, Python. Okay, yeah, not bad. Let's see. You could probably do those two on a line and save up some space there if you are interested. Let's see. Western Governors University, BS in software engineering. Cool. Boy, did you do that fast. You did that in you said September 2022 to November 2023. You did that in under 2 years. That is freaking insane. Just wanted to point that out. That's insane. Okay, cool. Let's look at the certifications. I would recommend you move those certifications up to the top, move that education to the top as well. Just in this case, leave the skills at the bottom. I'm okay with that, but definitely certifications, put them up to the top. They will help you get more notice. Just simply because your experience is IT related or IT specific job title, certifications are going to get more attention, especially if I'm skimming. So let's say you have the Security Plus, great. You have Practical SOC Analysis Associate, TCM. You have AWS Cloud Practitioner, and you're working or have completed the TryHackme Junior Penetration Tester Path. I love this. Really, really good stuff. That is amazing to see. To me, as a hiring manager, I see, hey, they knocked out the basic theoretical stuff, and look at them. They're getting their hands on getting into the SOC. They're learning cloud stuff, and they're learning the offensive stuff. I love it. You've got that full balance going on here in terms of trying to learn and get the knowledge that is going to help you be a balanced analyst and set you up for success. I love seeing those certifications. Move that up to the top. To me, that is more important than the skills, the way you have the skills listed. Bring those up, elevate those. Those are really good. This is really great. To me, you have a really good resume. I think you need to improve your summary a little bit more. I want it to be a little bit more impactful. You have some great stuff here. I want people to see this. I want people to talk to you because it is a great resume. We just need to present it a little bit better. And get the stuff up to the top. Other than that, you're doing all the right things. You're doing the things that I'm coaching folks. Let me know what type of feedback you're getting from your interviews. happy to help provide some tips there. But do those few things and keep chugging along. If you're not doing any more certifications, keep chipping away at those. The more you add, the more increased chances you're giving yourself here. You have a great set of them right now. Maybe start working the SOC 2 course or more advanced courses. Maybe malware analysis or TCM has a ton of them. TryHackme has a ton of them. Keep adding that knowledge here. Keep doing it as you're working that service center role, and you're going to get a job before you know it. You're doing the right things, keep it up. So, in summary, on this one, we want to move education certifications up. We want to make the summary a little bit more, not necessarily verbose, but more targeted to what you're doing and talk more about the skills you're doing. So, I would talk about how you're actively chasing after these skills and working on refining the skills you need to be successful, that you're excited and enthusiastic about a career. Because I'm reading that, just looking at all the work you've done already. Like, this is amazing. I love seeing this. And then finally, there's one other thing I told you to do. I don't remember, but those are the big things. So get those done. You should very much start getting some interest, at least in the commercial world, for roles. Yeah. Any questions, hit me up on Discord. Whoever's resume this is, we can definitely chat some more. So Fitness put in chat that SOC 200 from TCM. So he's suggesting some additional courses. It bridges the path from PSAA to professional certifications. We got 5 minutes. Let's look at some of these things here in TryHackme that this second person could look at. Let's look at paths. So, or maybe we look at the roadmap. Does this do it cleaner? So I think he said he did the junior one. Is that correct? Junior pen tester path. So he did junior. He could do the advanced endpoint investigations, SOC level 2. He could do some of these like web fundamentals. A lot of people actually suck with web stuff. Definitely something I encourage you to dig into to better understand how to do them. You could do red teaming. There's a bunch of stuff you can do here. So definitely encourage it. Hack the Box has some good ones. Let's check out TCM. And TCM is pretty affordable. They usually have some giveaways. Heath isn't there anymore. So I'm not sure if there's been a change in how they do stuff. I don't know. I wish I could tell you. But yeah, they have a bunch of stuff. They have network pen tester ones. Here's the one Fitness was talking about here. They have an AI one. A lot of the AI ones are trash out there. I haven't seen a good AI one except from Hidden Layer. Was a good one I've done, but that was an offensive one. It will hurt your brain. It's a very crazy one. Let's see. Practical SOC analyst, professional, practical web test. Lots of good stuff here. But any of these, even the malware research, anything that's showing that you're continuing to advance your skills is a really, really good thing to add to your resume. So, I don't want to sit here and say, hey, you have to do these specific ones. My thing is, hey, you get a theoretical certification, so SEC plus, CYSA. You get a hands-on one related to the role that you want, so SOC level 1 somewhere. Then just keep adding, keep exploring. So it could be threat hunting, it could be forensics, malware analysis, it could be offensive security stuff like this gentleman was doing. Anything, but you're going to keep building on those skills. And it is not a waste of time because you're going to be using these skills all the time. And they're just going to change and continue to change the way you look at cybersecurity as a practice. It does. Believe me, I've done 19 certifications now across the board. Every time I do one, it fills in more blanks. It gives me more tools in my tool belt to conduct investigations, to help understand strategy during an investigation, areas where I think my guys should look next. But they're not going to hurt you. They're going to make you more marketable, help you command a higher salary as you climb up, things like that. So they're definitely really, really good opportunities. Yeah, it's just nice when your job pays for those instead of you having to pay them out of pocket. But it doesn't hurt if you're doing like, for a while, I was doing like 2 or 3 certifications a year. Um, it doesn't hurt. Again, it makes you more marketable. You do, this is a contentious advice. My advice is that unless you have a place that is very aggressive with their wage increases, their compensation, it is much better for you to move to different organizations every couple of years because you're going to get a bigger jump in compensation. Now, that's in general. A lot of times you can't do that depending on your locality where you work at. It may be hard to find jobs. It may not be as competitive and it doesn't work that way. But as you get better, it is usually better for you to move. A lot of places only give you a 2 to 5% bump, which kind of stinks if you're busting your tail. But when you leave from one job to another, you can typically look at 15 to 20% jumps. And I wouldn't even suggest leaving unless you could get that 15 to 20% jump. Now, that isn't ideal for everyone. You know, some people who have families, it's more ideal for them to stay where they are for that stability. But for those young folks without a family who are open to changing jobs and even moving, that could be a way for you to kind of grow your compensation much, much quicker. Just a strategy, right? Everyone choose your own journey. Just something to think about when you're looking at compensation increases. It's very difficult to say, hey, you work there a year and then say, hey, I want a 30% wage increase or 10% or 20%. It's probably not going to happen. Not in most places. Just putting it out there. All right, folks. So we are at the tail end of the stream tonight. Hopefully, we had some fun. We had some great commentary, great chats in here. Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Fitness. Thank you. Who else do we have in here? Sasquatch. He's a new person. Thank you for joining today. We also had, who else? Hiram popped in here too at some point. I don't know if he's still with us, but thanks. Keep them coming. Hit me up in Discord if there's something you want me to cover on the next stream. So we will be on here next Thursday as well, same time. And yeah, let me know if there's something you want me to do a video on. So I'm doing more videos. I try to put one out one a week. I have been slacking the last couple of weeks. Forgive me, because I've been getting this new community ready to go. But yes, I'm happy. I'm here to serve you, here to make you better, make you more marketable, help you enjoy the world that I love, which is cybersecurity. With that, again, have a good one. If you're not subscribed or following, do that for me. Like and share the content, legitimately share the content if you know some folks that could use some help or need a community where they can ask questions and learn. I'm here for that. With that, we will see you around in Discord community. We will see you around on the interwebs. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Happy to chat. Yeah, we can check out some cryptography stuff next time. With that, have a great rest of your evening. I am going to unplug for a bit and get ready for work tomorrow. Take care, everyone. See ya.